joke right there. All right, you groovy grasshoppers, and I do mean groovy. We're just telling some bad dad jokes. The great Mark Puttenvig from Patriot Training Systems, Molly Morgan, the fantastic Molly Morgan. What's your company's name again?
Creative Nutrition Solutions.
That's right. And you're taking on a new position now, a new role, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, but not to digress. Let's jump right in.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. A couple of questions for you. One of the big things I'm seeing on Reels, I want both of yours input. Hydrogen water. Is this good, bad, and different? Is there anything to it? Molly?
Well, first and foremost, water is so important to our overall health, whether it's your performance or just your overall health. I mean, your body is anywhere from 50 to 70% water, and there's a ton of factors that go into that. But hydrogen water, I think, is an interesting concept. And it's kind of in the same ballpark of, there's all sorts of alkaline waters and aloe water and pH balance waters. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, water, and we're blessed in this country that you turn on the tap and we have great access here in the United States to safe water. So I guess, and I kind of touched on this last time, if anybody was tuning in, like with organic, it's not that organic fruits and vegetables don't have potential benefit, or, if you can afford it to go that route. But the same with water. Like, I would rather see somebody spend money elsewhere, maybe on food, than spending for hydrogen boosted water. So that's kind of my roundabout answer. And I've not seen any great research that says that's what we should all be drinking.
Mark, what do you think?
I don't know what you think.
Well, I agree. I think, again, it's marketing. A lot of it's marketing. Your water source is important in the sense that, so I live in Mahwah, New Jersey, and we probably a year or two, we got a letter from the town saying that one of the wells was contaminated with the forever chemicals. So we have been drinking nothing but, higher end bottled waters. Now, the problem with that is that there's recent research coming out that we have a much higher percentage of microplastics that come from these containers in our body than we previously thought. And that may be one of the factors in contributing to increased cancer rate and cardiovascular disease. You're better off, in my view, to get a really solid filtration system in your house if you can afford it. They're kind of pricey. You need the room for it. But that is the only foolproof way to ensure that you're drinking pure water. It's an osmosis. I forget the term, but anyhow.
Reverse osmosis.
Yeah, I'm sorry, reverse.
So what is this? What's the theory with hydrogen water? What is it?
I don't know. I mean, when I saw I didn't really pay much attention to it, just because of that reason. What Molly stated. I think we're trying to, it's a marketing thing. There may be some truth in it. What is the percentage of benefit to it? I don't know. There's no long-term studies. Again, we get back to these studies. Man, I tell you what, the more you look into a study, the more you find out that results are dictated upon U.S. dollar. How much money is being, who's promoting it? Like to say, if it's I won't name any names. So if it's a sugar company, they're going to tell you fat's bad. If it's a beef company, they're going to tell you sugar's bad. You need to kind of just filter through all of that. And if you're looking at research, look at two things. Look at who's financing it and what is the population. So
can I jump in really quick, Mark?
Yeah, because I have a question for you before you get to that. So flax seeds, you proponent of flax seeds? I am. I think they're very beneficial.
Yeah.
So there's
omega-3s in general, and flax seeds are one way to get them. So yeah.
So there's research, Molly, that's saying flax seeds lower your testosterone level. So this is a big concern for men in particular. Should be for women also, because they need to have a certain amount of testosterone. But when you find out that the population was cancer patients, so of course their T levels are going to be low. They're going through chemotherapy and radiation. So you really need to, you got to really be careful with research.
See, Jason Reed, this Gary Brecka guy, this guy drives me nuts. I think he's a total con artist. God. He said go ahead, Molly.
Molly wanted to say something.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing before we leave the hydrogen water, because I just did a quick Google search because I was curious, like what is Google going to tell me when I bring it up? And the like claim, so to speak, increased energy, reduced inflammation, and so on. But then it says the big but directly after that. But more research is needed to validate them, because when you look up, like for example, one study was 10 soccer players.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
showed that drinking the hydrogen infused water may reduce muscle fatigue and muscle function decline. Well, I'll tell you right now, an athlete showing up hydrated and rehydrating is also going to decrease muscle fatigue and function. So was it the water or
Well,
was
say
it
that again, Molly. Say that again for me.
So I'll tell you,
If an athlete shows up hydrated and hydrates
hydrated
again,
and then rehydrates. So, you've got to rehydrate because you're going to lose fluid from
Sure.
sweat during
Right.
an intense workout. If they do those two things, it's going to reduce muscle fatigue,
reduce it.
inflammation, etc. So is it the hydrogenated water or is it the fact that they actually hydrated? And I didn't read that particular study, but I don't put a lot of weight in any study that's 10 people.
Yeah, you have to look at population, really important. Age of population. What is that population? Is it male and female? Is it male only? Is it female only? You've got to research the research, kind of,
Yeah. And that's where we come in. I think that's the key thing. And I don't know. And you said that Gary Brecka's name, and he makes you crazy. I could name a couple that make me crazy too. And if I had $1 for every, missed piece of information that's out there, and sometimes there's grains of truth in the info, but it's then
extrapolated
in a way that does not make sense anymore.
Part of the problem, Tom, is people like doing what they like.
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to training or nutrition, they don't want to do what they don't like. So they're always looking for an excuse not to do that, right? And to continue the path they're taking, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but there's a lot of people that push themselves outside the comfort zone too, right?
Yeah, but I think in general, people, when it comes to training in particular, from my vantage point, they like doing what they like.
Yeah.
So let's say you have an athlete and he loves to bench press. That's fantastic. But are you doing all the auxiliary work that's really more important to your sport?
Right. And you don't like bench press, you do. You think it's bad for your shoulder.
I think it's the worst thing there's no reason to do a bench press.
Right.
If you look at professional fighters, boxers, you'll see they're all flat chested. It provides no athletic
glad to learn
ability.
that, by the way. I really, when I learned that from you a couple weeks ago on this.
Yeah, it destroys shoulders. It's an ego thing. No one ever says how many pull-ups can you do. It's always how much can you bench press.
I know, that's true.
Yeah. And when you, and this is something, because I'm in tactical world, somewhat speaking, and then when we train, when I say tactical, first responders, law enforcement, when you come across an unconscious body, do you push it or pull it out of harm's way?
Pull it. Yeah. Okay, let's move to rice. All right, here's another one. So our Gary Brecka guy saw the other day, I don't eat rice, and the guy asked him, not even white rice. He said, nope, don't eat rice. It's not good for you. Molly, where are we at with rice?
Was the rationale something to do with arsenic? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
think I turned him off once I started talking.
Yeah. So rice, actually, it's a really interesting food. And if you think about what is the first thing that you feed a baby, it's rice.
Yeah.
Rice is one of the easiest foods on the gut. Literally, no one is allergic to it. It's not an allergenic food. And as far as rice, any rice is going to give you carbohydrates and some nutrients. Even white rice, because of the way it's parboiled, drives some of the nutrients into the rice grain. And ideally, the fiber-rich rice, or that whole grain brown rice, is the most nutrient-rich and will give your blood sugars less of a spike. But rice is affordable. It can go with so many different flavors. And from a pure carbohydrate standpoint, it's absolutely beneficial. Now, there's some concern over the arsenic level in rice, which I'd have to look at what this Gary guy was saying of why you should never eat rice and it's poison to your body. That might be why. But it's like if some is good, more is not better. And I know if you've listened to us a few times, I say that a lot because nobody's saying that you should eat 5 pounds of rice a day. Like you might get into some problematic areas with arsenic levels in your body or something. But if you have a cup of rice, like looks like a baseball size of rice at night, you have it with your stir fry. There, in my opinion, there's no reason to avoid rice.
Yeah, so it's not bad. So what if you rinse your rice? Does that get rid of the arsenic problem?
I think some of it, in theory, is in the actual grain. I don't know that rinsing it. I've not read anything that it would remove it all if it's there. But I don't know, Mark, if you have any thoughts. But that's my 2 cents on rice.
Okay.
I don't think there's any reason to avoid it.
Mark?
I agree, and I also know rice is it's not inflammatory. It's one of the carbohydrates that's not inflammatory, starchy. And if it really was an issue, Mr. Brecka, with rice, most of the Asian populations wouldn't exist.
Yeah, no kidding, right? They're pretty healthy, yeah. Yeah. So, okay, and Mark, you mentioned the other day, brown rice, it still has the husk on it. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Is that a bad thing to have the husk on?
Some say it is, some say it isn't.
Well, you say no.
Yeah, it's a little harder on the gut. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's where you are going. So,
Well, I think if you have diverticulitis in particular, if you suffer from something like that, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think to me, white rice, as Molly said, it's all proportion. A cup a night, 2 cups a day, depending on your activity level, is not going to be an issue. But again, we get back to just everything we speak about in general here is moderation and sensibility. That's all.
Sensibility.
I mean,
Sensibility.
I don't know what the amount of rice you'd have to eat before you get arsenic poisoning. To me, it's
And then there's all these different rices, particularly in Asian countries where there's black rice, there's brown rice, there's red rice.
Yeah.
Huh.
But if you
I
walk
love
into
purple rice.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
if you
good.
walk into most Asian homes, you'll see they have rice it's ready to go. They have a rice
Yeah.
cooker on the thing. It's just you just walk up and take it and go.
Okay, why is a rice cooker better than just boiling it up in a pot? Is there a difference?
No, you're just cooking it in a different way, I imagine.
Okay.
The
And
only
then Molly,
thing
go
I
ahead, Molly.
think with the rice cooker that I love is if you've ever, and actually this just happened to me last night when I was cooking rice with our dinner, is I just got sidetracked for like 2 minutes too long, and you get
Yeah.
that like
Crust.
crust on the bottom of your pan. It's like,
Oh.
ugh,
Can't get it out.
it's so frustrating to
Jackhammer.
clean. The rice cooker just flips to keep warm, and it's perfect every time. So
Oh.
Great.
Oh, okay.
I like it for that, but nutritionally, it doesn't matter.
And we touched on this before. I think Molly asked you. A lot of reports that if you store your cooked rice in the fridge, you'll get mold potentially in it. Is that accurate?
Over several days. Yeah,
Oh.
I think we talked about this a little. Rice is actually a very dangerous food from a food safety standpoint. You really have to cook your rice, keep it warm, refrigerate it, chill it. And within, a 4-day window, I would say you need to consume your cooked rice because the moisture content of rice, it's a perfect breeding ground if there's stuff going on in there for it to grow.
Okay.
But
yeah. Okay. So I made hummus the other day. I made black bean hummus.
I was impressed, by the way.
Yeah. It was, and I had a whole bunch of black beans, cans of black beans, so I didn't have as much chickpeas, so I made the black bean hummus. Those things like black beans and hummus, the chickpeas are very healthy for you, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there are folks out there speaking of, beans are poison. They have lectins, which increases inflammation. And again, beans, a half cup of beans is tons of fiber, tons of protein, balances your blood sugar levels. It doesn't give as much of a spike. And it's a great plant-based source of protein. I know, Mark, you asked kind of, we need to talk about what I feel about eating a lot of meat and things. I think in general, what I love about hummus too, Tom, and beans is that most people, not all, eat plenty of animal protein. And there's so many great sources of protein. And beans, a can of beans is $1. Like, it's so cheap, it's affordable. Anyhow, so I think everybody should have beans on their shopping list. Well, you don't have to put them on every week if you buy like a big pack, but
Sure.
yeah.
No, I like it. Yeah. And the black bean hummus tasted pretty much just like the chickpea hummus too. So it's good. Oh, very tasty. Mark, what do you guys do for Easter? What are you cooking?
I don't even want to say because I'm very upset about it.
Let's get into it. Let's go.
So we're going by Beth's brother.
Oh,
He's
okay.
making lamb, and to me, lamb on Easter Sunday, Jesus had a little baby lamb. I just don't.
You're slaughtering.
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time with that.
I really struggle with that.
That's funny. That's funny. We're having steaks. I got some big steaks at some ribeye steaks at Costco. We're gonna grill them up. So it's giving me a little bit of a bad meal, not a healthy meal. So we had to grill them up, slice them up nice, and make a little sauce: butter, garlic, some chives in there. Drizzle that on the steak.
And what time is there?
Yeah, it's next year. Next year. And then we're gonna have this is bad. So I'm gonna make some sourdough bread. Have one slice it in half. The loaf. One half will be garlic butter on it. The other half will be garlic butter plus cheese. Oh, so it's tasty.
Well, can I teach you a trick?
Yeah, go.
Okay, instead of slicing it in half, make a grid on the top of your sourdough bread. So take a knife, be careful with your fingers, and make lines this way and then this way.
Right.
And put your garlic butter down in there. And then if you want half with the cheese, shove your cheese down in the and then warm it up.
Oh, really? Okay, I like that. Nice.
It's like stuffing garlic and meat, right? When you make the
good. So good. And then you just kind of pull it apart to eat it.
Okay, I like that. How about here's what we're having corn on the cob. Now here's an age-old question. Why does corn on the cob, you chew it up nice, and then we go take a poop the next day? The corn's all put, does it come back together like they reunite?
It's a rental.
It's a rental?
It's the fiber. Fiber passes through your system undigested.
So
you're still getting nutrients from the corn. You're still getting carbs. It's not like it literally just goes through, but the bulk, let's talk about poop for a second and be a little gross, but the bulk of your poop is some of it is undigested food. So like if you have bran flakes or beans are super high in fiber, I mentioned. Right. Fiber does not get digested in the sense of like absorbed into your body. It's literally heading out the other direction.
Right. So it's not, there's still nutrients in the fiber and everything, right? Okay. Yeah. Poop's one of my big subjects. Yeah.
It's not that there's nutrients in the fiber per se, but fiber slows down the movement of food through that big, long intestine in your body. And it allows the nutrients in the food to get digested and absorbed. That's why, let's go back to your corn question for a second. Yeah. Corn's not coming out immediately the next moment, right? It's the next day or so.
Yeah.
It's because it's moving through that tract. Everything's getting digested and absorbed, and the fiber's coming out the other direction.
Well, how about beets then? So not every food. I eat something green, it doesn't come out green the next day in my poop. But when you eat beets, right, it comes out red. What's that all about?
Yeah.
Mark, what's going on there?
I don't know the mechanism behind it, but it's true. And I would assume it's just that it's a very, very deep, rich color. Mm-hmm. And by the way, beets are phenomenal for you.
Yeah.
They boost your nitric oxide levels. Beets are good.
There's good research. We talk about not good research. There's really good research around beets and nitric oxide and helping just clear up those blood vessels. And the beets, the other thing, and this is kind of, can I tell a funny story back to poop?
Yeah.
So our younger son, he'd be so embarrassed. He's not on Facebook, so it's fine. Loved beets. It was actually our older son. Loved beets when he was little. And we're changing his diaper the next day. And I yelled to my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, call the doctor. Like, he's bleeding. I don't know what happened. And I totally forgot that he had this delicious, pile of beets with his dinner last night. But also it can do the same thing to your pee. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
It's called, actually, I'm going to if I spell it out, I could spell it right. Beeturia, which is literally like that red colored tinge gets into your pee. So the next day or so after you eat beets, don't rush to the doctor. It should be okay.
This is why Molly fits right in. We talk about poop and pee all the time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure thing.
It's a natural process, right? I mean, it's just happens.
Yeah.
All right. So, Molly, what do you guys have for Easter dinner? Your family?
Oh, we're doing a little bit of everything. My husband is doing this crazy fitness challenge right now, and
nice.
he is on this really strict regimen. So for him, I'm doing like ground turkey and green beans and stuff. And then for everybody else, I'm doing ham and asparagus and mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes. And then for myself, I don't eat meat, so I do tofu for myself.
Oh, so you're vegan or
vegetarian?
Vegetarian. What's the difference, sir?
Vegans, no dairy and no animal byproducts like honey. I do still eat dairy.
Okay, good. So, Mark, you're going to boycott? Like, are you going to eat the lamb? Like, how are you going to feel? Like,
bless it first.
Right. Like, we feel guilty. Will you be able to sleep at night after you just ate that?
Probably not. Yeah, it's
lamb.
disturbing. Yeah.
But the same thing with veal, right? Like veal is little baby cows. Right?
And they're chained up to their little.
Yeah, they're in these little houses and everything.
Well, I got yelled at from one night because I made an omelet. I put chicken in it, and Beth just said, "This is really wrong."
That's
really
good.
Wrong.
I never thought of that. That's very good.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah, but you think if people saw how veal is like the little calves are raised, do you think they'd still eat it? I guess they would, right?
Some would.
You'd be surprised. You probably would never eat again if you ever went to a slaughterhouse.
Oh God.
Or any of the processing plants and see what goes on.
Yeah.
That's why I became vegetarian.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have a dog and cats. I love animals. It's not just an animal rights thing for me. When I was training for my first half marathon, it was a lot of my running was in the winter, and just with running outside and safety, like with slipping and falling, I would run like 10 miles at a time on the treadmill. So I would watch documentaries because I just needed something like 10 miles on a treadmill. I'm not that fast of a runner.
I know.
It's a lot of time. And Food Inc. I watched that movie, and they take you right into the slaughterhouses and the chicken. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm good. Well, there's a million other reasons too, but that for me was a tipping point.
Molly brought up something good there, Mark. Running. People who want to lose weight. Is running the best way to do that?
Well, running's part of it. We also know that if we increase muscle mass, we're increasing our metabolism, i.e. you're burning more calories. And really, when you talk about body recomposition, in either direction, either gaining weight or losing weight, it's really simply, put aside all the other types of diets and workouts. It's calories in, calories out. So if you burn more calories than you're consuming, you're going to there'll be body recomposition. Now, the question is, will it be water? Will it be fat? Or will it be muscle that you lose? So you got to keep that in mind. But, yeah.
Don't you lose more weight and burn more fat by your heart rate going up and down, like the high intensity interval training?
Again, that's one way you can do it. I mean,
gotcha.
There's no burning fat, and that's an often used, overused statement. You don't burn fat. Again, it's a process of where you.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay, Molly.
Where you getting your energy, Tom? Is it from? Are you getting your energy from your fat in the body or the sugar in the body? Or oxygen. So those are your three primary sources of energy. Anaerobic means energy without the presence of oxygen. So when you do a sprint, when you're doing the sprint, you're not using oxygen. Sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah. When
you're recovering and you're breathing really heavy, now you bring in oxygen to replenish your adenosine triphosphate, which is the power in the muscle cell. So, for instance, if you do high intensity training like a Tabata where you're doing sprints, you're going to burn up a lot of glycogen, which is sugar. Meaning that for the rest of the day, whatever you're doing, the only source of energy you have now is body fat or adipose tissue. So that's one way that we know we can create some body recomposition. However, there are other, long duration, low intensity does work. Just takes you longer to get there because say if you're on a treadmill and you're going at a comfortable pace, for the first 20 minutes you're on a treadmill, you're primarily only burning sugar. It's not until after 20 minutes that you start to utilize fat as an energy source.
Yeah.
So you have to keep these things in mind. And that's why I like high intensity training, because you get it done in 12 minutes
Sure.
and get better results. And guess what? That level of intensity stays at a higher level. You're burning more calories for a longer period of time
Oh, okay.
than you are if you do low intensity, long duration.
Right.
There's a difference in how long the afterburn, so to speak.
Right.
Even though I hate that saying burn, but that's pretty much what it is.
Sure. I guess, like you said, too, the bottom line is you're working out, you're doing something, right?
Well, yeah, and again, I mean, I'm going to use some extremes here. If you look at a marathon runner, are they muscular? No, because they burn. Because once you run out of body fat, you're burning muscle for energy.
Yeah. I noticed that during the pandemic, I was walking like 10, 12 miles a day, and I really felt like I was losing muscle mass. Like it was.
Well, I mean, if you look at, you look at a marathon runner, they're not muscular. However, if you look at a sprinter, so you look at Usain Bolt or any one of them, they're extremely muscular.
Yeah.
Because they're doing these short bursts of energy that does not affect your muscle mass.
Right. Here's a good one. Okay, Usain Bolt. How much of that was just naturally the way he was born, or how much of it was hard work?
Well,
for example, I'll use him as an example.
Yeah. To be at that level, it's hard work. But there's also genetics. I mean, because he's a sprinter, his body, his structure lend him to be a higher level athlete. And we're talking about Usain Bolt, Molly.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? But you know what you'll like this, Molly. When interviewed and they asked him what's the key to your success, he said yams. Because in Jamaica, that's pretty much all they eat.
Oh.
And they are an excellent source of
okay, here we go. Then what's the difference between a yam and a sweet potato?
Nothing really. It's just,
Okay, there's another subject too. Okay, so sweet potatoes, are they better for you than a regular potato?
Again, it depends what you're looking at. I mean, for an athlete that's going to compete, I'd rather see them do the yams or the sweet potato because it's a little lower glycemically, and you're going to get a more even source of the carbohydrate entering your blood system. And the white potato is a little higher glycemically, so you're going to get a little bit of a sugar spike.
Right.
Or so they both serve two different purposes. I would like potatoes after I compete, so I can really replenish my glycogen stores in a rapid amount of time.
Okay, Molly, hockey. You dealt with hockey players, Molly. So what's the best meal and best time to have it? 7:00 game at night. What's the best time to eat your pregame meal, and what is the best meal?
So I'm a big fan of the mid-afternoon, like really big pregame meal. So you have time to digest and you're not going in with a overly full stomach.
So like 1:00 in the afternoon?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then, anything as far as whatever sits best in your stomach, which is different from person to person. But definitely I like rice as a pregame carb. Oh. And some guys, like if they had purple rice and scored a goal, it was like, oh, purple rice is all I can eat. It's fantastic. Salmon or, a lean protein, and then some vegetables. You oddly, like I'm pro vegetable, obviously, but you don't want to overdo it on fiber because fiber is really tough on the digestive system and takes a while to get through. So it could make your gut feel kind of like heavy. So carbs, protein, and then make sure you're hydrating, drinking plenty of fluids. And even like, I know this probably sounds crazy, but sometimes teams would have like a game day cookie routine.
Yeah, I know.
And it's more of just like a mental, like I do a game day cookie. My kids even do a game day cookie. It's just something they picked up from being around pros. But that far away from the time of the game, you're going to get that spike and drop before it impacts your performance.
Right.
And then when you come back to the rink at night, you top off with a little bit of something.
Okay, so the 1:00 meal should have a smaller snack. You say that cookie. So, but the cookie's not the best thing to have before the game, though. But it's a routine, right?
Yeah, if that's your routine, I would actually rather see the pregame cookie with the meal, and then when you come back, so you don't get that spike and drop, is have whatever your pre-workout like go-to snack would be, something simple, light, even like a handful of pretzels and some pre-workout drink if you do that. Certainly fluids, especially if you're a guy playing a lot of minutes.
Right. And then after Mark, do you think it's best that they eat after the game as well? Like have a full meal?
We're talking about NHL or just youth hockey?
High level hockey.
Well, yeah, you want to eat after a game for sure. You need to, again, you need to replenish your glycogen stores. And you're going to have a little bit of micro trauma. You know, you're being hit out there, you're performing. So you want some protein with branched chain amino acids that's going to, you know, help repair that micro trauma. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So drinking 6 ice cold beers after the game is not the best
Probably the root. That's why I asked NHL or youth hockey. Yeah.
Oh God! So our pattern was that like we didn't know this stuff at all. So we'd eat the pregame meal, play the game, lose probably 5-6 pounds of water weight. They've got the cooler beer right in the center of the locker room. Grab a couple of those ice cold, just chug them down. You got no food inside you anymore. Oh God!
I think Molly, you probably agree. The guys are a little bit more in tune now because they make so much money.
Yeah,
and they want to perform. They want to be on the ice. They want to be out there. So they're. But that's not all of them, but most of them I would think are.
I think so nowadays.
You know what's wild too is I worked in the league for 14 years, and so there'd be guys, you know, pretty young, super talented, could get away with eating and drinking kind of whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And then, you know, right around 24ish, they'd be like, okay, what do I need to do? Because this isn't working anymore. So, you know, that's the one challenge I think with pros, especially that come into the league that are super talented, is they can get away with a little bit more when they're younger. And then when you're trying to keep up with the 19-year-olds at 25, 28, 29, it gets harder.
Yeah. Molly, I'm not trying to get rid of you, but you had a hard stop there.
I can do a few more minutes. We had a furnace issue. We have a brand new furnace now at our house, and I just had to give the guys their final check.
Oh, okay, good, very good, good. All right, here's a little bit of a mental health. I guess we'll put this in the mental health category. I was watching a video the other day, and the guy said, "It's that black guy so intelligent, Neil. I can't remember his last name. Really, like
Tyson DeGrace. Yeah.
Yes." Man, he's good. He's like I think he's legitimate. Like when he says stuff, he's got the science to back it. So he said, "Okay, here I'm going to blow your mind a little bit." He says to the guy, he says, "The sun does not rise and set. It's just our view of the sun that changes." The sun. I just thought that it was all about perspective, right? It was like, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah,
because we think about, and he also says the tides do not go in and out. Because of the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon, it pulls the water. It's got a little bulge, and then the Earth just rotates through that bulge all the time.
Yeah, it's the moon actually, and then
the sun and the moon.
Yeah, the moon more so because it's closer, but yeah, both.
Yeah. I thought this is pretty cool because we've just become accustomed to we just go the sun rises and sets. Well, it's not. It's just I thought it was just interesting to think about stuff. Same thing with if you go to the people say, well, go up to the red light up there, or go up to the stoplight up there. Why don't we say the go sign?
Yeah, that's Zig Ziglar, who's a motivational speaker. Yeah. He mentioned that. He said, we always say, go to the stoplight. Well, he said, as he would put it, it's a go light just as well.
Yeah, I know.
And he said something to the effect that when a child reaches their 18th birthday, they've been told, no, you can't do it, like almost close to 200,000 times.
Right.
And he even further states, and I love this thinking, like, say you have a child and you say, don't spill your drink. Well, they're going to spill it.
Yeah.
If you say drink every drop, it puts a positive thought in your mind.
Isn't that true? We're very negative when we say things. Like,
he also said positive thinking, you can overdo it too. So,
toxic
came home and he said, hey, Dad, I think I failed my math test. He said, positive thinking. So, well, Dad, I'm positive I failed my math test.
What'd you call it, Molly?
Toxic positivity is a phrase that's often used because you also, I fully agree. And raising kids is certainly a challenge, and there's a lot of challenges that anybody goes through in life, but you do have to sometimes be realistic. Like things aren't just going to take care of themselves on their own. If you're failing your math test, for example, okay, well, that's the problem. What are the action steps so that next time it's a different result?
We talked about this the other day, Molly. I was telling Mark this. I get on YouTube now. You can see all the old games we played before, and it's really fun to watch it now because it's like 40 years ago. And I find myself, I'm much more aware of myself now. I wasn't back then. So I was carrying the puck up the ice in this one game, big playoff game. And I'm flying up the ice. I call myself flying. And I went to pass to a player. Ron Duguay is about 5 feet away. And it's like the puck was a grenade. It just flew up in the air. It was a simple play, 5-foot pass that I made. many times. And it went to this really good player on Los Angeles Kings, this Larry Murphy. And immediately I just ran him over top of him. And our player got the puck and had a scoring opportunity. So it looks like this great play, but it's stupid. I didn't have to do what I did. But the reason I say that is I realized with myself, I was so used to making mistakes that I didn't stop and think about the mistake. It just went. And I think that had been drilled in my head for so long that I knew I was going to make mistakes. That just happens. It's funny watching. I'm dying laughing. I had to go back and watch it again. Like, and that's pretty much. I'm sure a lot of people are like this too that are successful. That was a big part of my life on and off the ice. It still is. Like I'm not afraid to make mistakes anymore. It
allows you to have a contingency, and that's what you did. The puck for whatever reason was a muffin. Maybe hit bad ice. But you
know what? I love you, Mark. I love you. You've been trying to back me up there, right?
But you immediately went to what you know is your strongest part of your game, being physical.
Yeah.
And that there again, I think that goes across the board. Do what you do best, not what you want to do best.
Right. Yeah. And really prepare for those mistakes, right? Like really embrace your mistakes, attack your mistakes. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Molly, what's your favorite food that you cook health-wise?
Ooh, health-wise.
Yeah. Not taste. Health. It could still be tasty, but
yeah. Oh, my very favorite food. You know what I think I make? And a lot of people think tofu is gross. I make amazing tasting tofu.
Oh, okay.
In a couple different ways, but tofu is one of those foods that has no flavor. And the texture is a little unique, but there's ways you can make that work for it. And the texture will soak up. Like if you take your favorite marinade and marinate a block of tofu that's cut up in little cubes and then cook it in a skillet till it gets like little crispiness on each side. It is seriously delicious. And I know to be like, oh man, tofu is one of the grossest foods on the planet. It's so bland, boring. It can be delicious. So I would say that's one of my like surprising, like people can come over and I make, and maybe they're just being kind, but even my teenage boys will eat it. So.
Oh, cool. How about you, Mark?
Probably the chicken that I make in my Dutch oven because it's so simple, but and it's an hour and a half in the oven. You put it in, you don't think about it, and it comes out and it's just succulent and falls off the bone. And because chicken, you got to be careful; it can get really dry and then bounce.
What do you do? A whole chicken?
Yeah, a roaster. It's just enough for Beth and I. Put it in there on a bed of onions and carrots and season it up. And sometimes I'll put potatoes in there, but most often I'll put it over white rice because the rice really soaks up a lot of the flavor of the juice from the chicken.
I love chicken too. That's the tough. If you get chicken tenderloins or stuff like that and cook them, they very often get dry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to be just careful with. But that's the beauty of the Dutch oven, and if you do what they tell you to do, it's it's sealed, so it's continuing to kind of baste itself, so to speak.
Here's one for you that I did it yesterday. I saw a video where people were saving all their old vegetables that were going to go bad. Put them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the fridge. And when the bag Molly knows where I'm going here. So the bag got filled up, dump it into the pot, put water in there, boil them up for 2 hours, get some vegetable broth. I did it last night. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Did you have to add some salt?
I put a little salt in, but I was careful because I didn't want to ruin the whole concept of having it healthy. Put a little salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. Man, I was surprised how good it was.
Did you post a video of that?
No, not yet. I didn't do that. I'll do that.
You got it. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, sometimes when I do something new like that, I don't post it right. I guess I'm ego. I want to get it done properly, right? So
my mornings are always the same. So after I train, I'll have 3 hard-boiled eggs. Then I'll have some pickles, which probably sounds pretty gross to people. And so the fermented foods are extremely healthy for your gut biodome, so to speak.
Right. And that's why like sourdough is healthy for you, right? Because it lowers gut.
And the eggs are just tremendous bioavailability, like 98% protein. And
okay. There's a question for you, for both of you. So eggs in the past were viewed to be a bad thing, like high cholesterol and everything. Is it new science? Have we learned something new that now they're good for you? Is that just evolution?
When you mention cholesterol, people think cholesterol is evil. If you didn't have cholesterol, your cells would look like a Salvador Dali clock. Right? They keep the shape of the cell. They're also extremely important in hormone production, both testosterone and estrogen. Now, again, some of the stuff that we've come to hold as gospel is not turning out to be true. even cholesterol numbers. So everybody works under the assumption it's got to be under 200. And there has to be a higher level of HDL as opposed to LDL, high density lipoprotein as opposed to low. The truth of the matter is that was based on a Framingham, and you could Google this Framingham study, and it was kind of a flawed study. Again, it has to do with population, it has to do with length of study, but how many years they did it. Turns out that it really gets to the point where your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, that's the one that, if you think of it, cholesterol is like a milk truck with these little bottles, and inside the bottles are cholesterol. High density is strong bottles. So when that truck's bouncing around in your arterial walls, the cholesterol doesn't leak out. Low density leaks out, it sticks to the wall, becomes plaque, and then you have stroke and cardiovascular events. However, more recent research and good research shows that your LDL would have to be up to about 300 points before there's a cardiovascular event, or I shouldn't say event, but leading to a cardiovascular event. So again, you got to be really careful. What we've always accepted as fact, some of it still is, a lot of it is questionable.
So there's nothing new. We just
my point is the eggs always got a bad rap because of cholesterol.
right.
And if you're truly concerned if you're medically at a point where you got to really be super careful, just take the yolks out. Just eat the egg whites. There's no cholesterol on it. All the cholesterol is in the yolk.
And Molly, so a lot of these trainers I've seen now, they're training young hockey players. They're telling them to eat like 7 eggs a day. Is that right? Is that good?
Maybe. So back to Mark's point, they're super bioavailable source of protein. They're cheap, they're affordable, pretty easy to prepare. The thing I think that's a watch out with anything is if some is good, more is not better. So I would say the most eggs I've ever put in a plan, and I'm talking for like a 6'6". Actually, I just wrote a plan this morning for a 6'6", super high-end basketball player. And I put 4 eggs was the max I ever put in a day. And he needs like 5,000 calories a day for a 6'6" high-end basketball player. So it's all a matter of perspective too. Like I don't eat 5,000 calories a day. I do not need 4 to 7 eggs a day. I should have other sources of protein coming in. So I caution on ever saying like yes or no, because there might be instances where it makes sense. But generically, I think anytime you're eating mass quantities of any particular food, you really need to look and like, it's kind of like people ask me that too about milk. Like, should I drink milk? Shouldn't I drink milk? Well, yeah, milk is nutrient rich. It's a great source of protein, lots of vitamins and minerals, just like, eggs has great protein. Should you drink a gallon of milk a day? No, you do not need a gallon of milk a day. 3 cups a day. And when I say cups, like literal 8-ounce cups, like you don't need. So that's such the hard part, I think, when you try to bucket yes or no about a food. You do really need to think like bigger picture.
So growing up at a farm, we had a dairy farm. So we would get the milk right from the cow, like go into the cooler. So unpasteurized milk.
Yeah.
Does that make your bones grow bigger too? Is the calcium in the milk, does that help your bones grow?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, calcium, 99% of calcium is stored in your bones. 1% is in your muscles. So calcium is also really important for muscle contraction, actually. But your bones, your teeth, that's where a majority of your calcium is stored in your body.
God, I would drink a gallon.
Though.
I would drink a gallon of milk every day too when I was a kid. Just loved it. We had an endless supply of milk, so we drank it all the time.
Yeah.
I got hurt one time. Went and got X-rays. We're on the road out west someplace, and the X-ray technician comes in. He goes, "What is with your bones? Like I guess I grew up.
Strongest bones on the planet."
Yeah.
So what people, from a training aspect, one thing people fail to recognize: bone is actually tissue. So they've done research and studies going back. Remember Don Hooten pitched for the LA Dodgers?
Yeah, sure.
They did. They didn't have MRIs back then, but they did some X-rays on his pitching arm as opposed to his non-pitching arm. It was almost a third thicker.
Oh.
Because that's the arm he throws with. So any kind of resistance work, squatting, whatever, deadlifts and all that kind of stuff, anything where there's resistance, since bone's tissue, it actually grows. Right. And just think of the density of a horse's legs. I mean, you look at the
Sure.
spindly little legs, and yet they're supporting a massive animal. All right.
Yeah. And that's important for people getting older, right? To maintain that muscle mass.
Oh,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, calcium is important for bone growth, but Mark, and you can speak on this much better than myself, but that weight bearing exercise, whether it is weightlifting or even simply walking, etc., like it is so important for keeping your bones strong. Just taking calcium in
not going to do
without
it.
activity is not going to get the job done, especially as you age. Because after about late in your 20s, that's your peak bone mass as far as like a hormonal building bone density goes. So you have to work hard to preserve what you have there, and staying active is such a vital, just taking a calcium chew every day and saying, my bones will be fine. In my opinion, you could be setting yourself up for failure.
I like the way you guys said that, because I've seen many people talking about how you get older. It's so important to continue to lift weights, right? So that's the reason, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because sarcopenia, which is a physiological term or medical term, I should say, when you reach a certain age, you start to lose muscle mass, regardless if you're training or not. Now, if you're training, you're going to lose less muscle mass.
Right.
If you're not training, you're going to lose a lot of muscle mass. So
Come on.
So
66 next month.
not
Mark. Come
bad,
on.
man.
There you
Not
go.
bad.
There you go.
Which way's the beach, by the way? That's over
Oh,
there.
I'm terrible.
But
I'm
so-
terrible. You know what happens when you happens to get older too? Like, somebody says, "How old are you?" I go, "I'll be 66 next month." Just your ego goes on, and they're going, "No way, you're not." Yeah, that's right. I'm not. Yeah.
Tom, I probably have time for one more topic, then I'm going to have to run, but
Okay. All right. You've touched on sugar before. So and then my son is like, I'm very, very trying to be smart about not using too much salt. But you say that those, I know it's in moderation, but those things are not necessarily bad for you, right?
right. So sugar is absolutely a source of energy, but sugar, when we talk about sugar coming from gummy bears, sweet potatoes, or strawberries, there's one in there that's not so great as compared to the others.
Gotcha.
So you want to make sure most of your source of sugar is coming from nutrient-rich foods like fruits and, starchy vegetables, for example. Even bread, like is a source of sugars per se, or carbohydrates. So you just have to be careful with the source of the sugar, and certainly eliminating like soft drinks and sugary drinks that literally are not delivering any nutrient value to your body. That is a smart place to cut out the sugar. And
Right.
before a holiday weekend,
Yeah.
it's probably not the best time people want to hear this stuff, but it is all about moderation. And have that candy this weekend, have a little bit, but just keep it in check.
Cool. How about you, Mark? Where are you at with salt and sugar?
Pretty much where Molly is. Many years, probably over 30 years ago, I read a book by Dr. Lawrence Lamb. It's titled Metabolism, or How Your Body Converts Food into Energy. And it was really eye-opening. And I kind of think what he said is what Molly's saying. But once you understand how your body converts, whether it's a protein, a fat, or a carbohydrate, it gives you a better understanding of how to lay out your eating plan and having a better vision. For instance, alcohol, one of the reasons, there's some feminizing, believe it or not, attributes, because it does lower your testosterone. That's why men start to get, like, if you're over drinking and you abuse alcohol, you get the man boobs and the gut and all that kind of stuff. But because your body doesn't know what to do with alcohol, can't identify it as a sugar or protein or a fat, so it just says it's a fat. Not that
It's a
your body.
good time. It's a good time.
Yeah.
That's
There's some
terrible.
good times and some bad ones. But anyhow,
I
I agree with Molly. Moderation is the key. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Am I going to eat a dozen eggs a day? There was a time I did because I was misinformed, but I don't anymore. I eat 3 a day. I don't think there's a problem with that. And again, what is my level of activity? I mean, that's an important thing. People have to understand. If you have a sedentary job, you can only consume X amount of calories a day per your body weight. If you're burning in excess of that, well, you got to replace that with a food source, because that's the only way we get it. We eat food for 3 reasons: emotion, to rebuild tissue, and to provide energy. Those are the only 3 reasons we do.
Very good. Good show, guys. We'll let Molly go here now. Everybody have a fantastic Easter weekend. You know what? Like Molly just touched on there, it's Easter weekend. So ideally, some of these foods aren't going to be good for us, but have some fun. Just work it off the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I give everybody a license on this one? Don't
Yeah.
think of it as not good for you, because truly, food at the end of the day, even if it's coming from chocolate or steak or butter, is calories to your body. So remove the guilt and don't feel like, oh, I'm eating so bad. Don't stress yourself out like that. And then just the next day, next meal,
Yeah.
you
Get
get
back
back
at
to
it.
your routine.
Yeah, definitely. Great job, everybody. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy
Talk to you later.
Catch you later.